back, listeners and viewers, to another week of Deducation, the Teachers Talking Terror podcast, where myself, Mike,
and Courtney
are going to discuss a horror film and then dive into what it would be like being an educator in that world. This week, we are talking about the sequel to last week's movie, Creep. We're talking about Creep 2 from 2017. Another tight little, short little, like less than 80-minute horror film. I guess right at 80 minutes. And it just continues the story of last week's antagonist yet main character, Joseph/Aaron.
He has now taken over his previous victim's name.
Yeah, and I wonder... No, I don't think that can be, because when he took over Aaron's name for this one, I wondered, like, oh, does he each time take over the name of his previous victim? But when his sister called him in the first one,
yeah,
and he was referred to him as Joseph, like, she knew who he was talking about, so
yeah,
his name must be Joseph. But yeah, he's still building on how much of an impact the previous protagonist, Aaron, had on him. And he's hit a little midlife crisis.
He has. This movie starts out with, we're looking through this little hole in a box, almost. Mm-hmm. And you've got this, obviously, a hidden camera recording something that he has given to, honestly, this kid looked way too young to be with him.
Yeah, it's Dave.
Yeah, and Dave doesn't last long because it's like the first few minutes and he just like slices Dave's neck.
Yeah, like he's going on, and like all of this with Dave, it was that reveal.
Yes.
He revealed to Dave that, hey, all of that creepy stuff that's been going on with you has been me. And of course, Dave was kind of shocked, and like you said, he slashes his neck, splatters blood on the wall. Dave dies, and Aaron, we'll call him Aaron because that's what he goes by this week. Aaron just basically sits there in some mild depression of it just isn't doing anything for him anymore. Like, he's not excited by this anymore. He's just, like I said, he's hit this midlife, I don't really know what to do with my life because this isn't doing it for him anymore. Really, I think what it boils down to, he peaked with Aaron in the previous movie, and everybody here on just can't hold a candle to him.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of interesting because you could, there's a lot of, aside from the murder, of course, there's a lot of symmetry between what Aaron is going through in this movie and what people go through, in real life relationships, where when you think you found the one, but it doesn't work out, it takes a long time climbing back up that hill, and you can't help but compare. And it's absolutely unfair to the new person in the relationship that they're constantly internally being compared to a previous relationship. But that's really kind of what Joseph/Aaron is doing in the beginning of this one. Is nobody is as good as Aaron was.
Yeah.
And only it's sad because obviously the way that Joseph/Aaron presents himself, there's no way to like rekindle the relationship because you murder them. It's not like, I wonder if I could get him back. No, you can't.
Second chance, there are no second chances here.
Yeah, you left him with an axe in his head on a park bench. I don't think you're getting it back. So that's where Aaron is at. And then we just jump cut to Sarah, who is a struggling YouTuber, and she's trying to build a web series based on, what is it called, Encounters?
Yes.
Based on
like
her
weird
just weird people. Like people with strange, like there was a show, My Strange Addiction.
I was just gonna say, it reminds me of the people that like eat the inside of the couch or do things like that. Like they're just different.
They're just different. And you know what? Outside of that difference, they run a normal, productive life. They just come home and eat toilet paper instead.
Yeah.
And so, or they drink laundry detergent, or it's just something that's odd about them, and they want to get past it because they know it's not normal, but it's a addiction that they can't break. And so Sarah's web series is very similar to this, and that there's just these people that they really come off as just very lonely. Yes. And she is trying to, I really don't even know what the basis of her show is. Is it trying to bring normalcy to these people? Because she's clearly she's not starting a relationship with them.
No, she's not.
But I almost feel that she's trying to capture their weirdness for her own, social benefit.
Yeah.
And it's
not benefiting. It's not benefiting her at all. Like, it's failing. Yeah. And this is, like, in my opinion, like her last kind of reach to become normal, because again, she finds this ad for a videographer that she is gonna go sign up, and he admits he's a serial killer, and which awesome, like if you're doing shows on different people, that would be a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and it really was like the perfect storm, because like you said, she's looking out of desperation. She's like, I'm going to give it one more chance.
Yes.
And then she comes across Aaron, who didn't mention it in his Craigslist ad, but he just starts out like, I'm a serial killer.
Yeah.
And
she
of course
wasn't phased. Like,
no, I don't think she believed him.
Yeah. And he was like, I won't kill you in the next 24 hours if you record a documentary of me.
Right.
Well, okay, I'm leaving in 23 hours then, because
Yeah. I just don't think she believed him.
Yeah.
Because he was so normal. Yes. And the movie did a great job of building on what the first creep did. Mm-hmm. It's like she comes to the house and the door opens, and we already, if you've seen the first one, which of course we have, she's already expecting, we are already expecting him to jump out or something, because we've seen him do it. Well, she goes in the house and he's just in the kitchen making a green smoothie, and he's really hit like hipster vibe.
Yes.
Like, he probably wears shoes where the toes cut out,
those are so cringy.
But it's like, it's probably what he's got going. He probably has a hydration system in his backpack or something like that, because he's got the beard, he's got the the short ponytail, he's drinking a green smoothie. Like, he's probably got his ear pierced recently. Like, he's really hit that midlife, I need to find my youth again, which of course flies in the face of everything we saw in the first movie, where he lied about everything. Of, I'm the father, or I've got a unborn kid, and I have a brain tumor, and like all of the lies he fed Aaron in the first one, he just, like we mentioned, a couple minutes ago, he just goes right past it. It's, I'm a serial killer, and it's even like, well, I don't really understand what he was trying to get out of the video then.
Yeah,
because he's basically admitting everything that he's done.
Yes. Which, like, later on, he kind of did talk about how he had seen her videos, but I don't think he had seen them before meeting her.
And I don't know.
Because, and like, maybe, if he had seen them before that, maybe he's just like, you know what, like, I'm going to really, which he knew that she wasn't going to post them. Yeah. So why, I guess. Yeah,
and that's where there were a couple little questions when they're like, when you post a video or when you post an ad on Craigslist, you clearly have no control over who answers it.
Yeah.
Yet he knew an awful lot about her.
Yes.
And they were never apart. Mm-mm. So it's not like he could go do a real quick YouTube search.
Yeah.
For Sarah. It's like, it just is off. Like with Aaron in the last movie, it was pure just chance, and everything was in the moment. Like, there was no Aaron backstory.
No.
And this one, it's like, we know Sarah has her Encounters show, but she's not filming this movie like Encounters. She's just filming it for him.
Yes.
And yet he was aware of Encounters somehow.
Yeah.
I just was odd. Like, YouTube is, even in 2017, YouTube is way too big to just stumble across somebody with 9 subscribers.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so she's kind of stuck herself between sticking with the narrative because she wants it and getting out of Dodge because it's best for her.
Yes.
Like she spends, a couple minutes in the bathroom when he's like, let's go on a hike or whatever. And she spends a couple minutes in the bathroom really like videoing herself and contemplating what she should do.
Yeah. Hiding a knife in her boot.
Yeah.
Like...
Meanwhile, he's outside like, let's go. And then here for a while, it plays out a lot like Creep. Mm-hmm. He's really, only the difference is she's not fazed by him.
Yeah, she's equally as...
Just,
if I haven't already said it, she's equally as odd.
Yeah, she is. And I think if, we think about it and we talk about it, she even mentioned herself, she was going to make an episode, like her last episode of Encounters was going to be about her. And I really think she's just as lonely as the people she's seeking out.
Yeah.
But because she has the camera, she can trick herself into believing she's not.
Yeah.
And so he's working really hard to intimidate her, jumping out from behind, screaming into the camera, and it just doesn't faze her. Because I think she's also hungry for attention,
yes.
and he's giving it to her. Like it's reciprocated here. They really, we talked earlier this week, just kind of, at school a little bit that, you could make an argument that this could be a romance movie.
Mm-hmm. They click on the same, level, kind of. They're both just...
they're both accepting of weird tendencies. Yes. I won't say, I wouldn't go as far to say they're into the same weird stuff, because that's a whole different category where you stumble across that, magical person that you've got a fetish and you find out they also have the same fetish, but you don't know that prior. You just find out, you're like, wow, but I wouldn't say these two have it. I just think that, he's so used to using fear and intimidation for himself that when he doesn't faze her, it's a new challenge. It reinvigorates him.
Yeah, he doesn't know what to do. He's like, oh boy. And so they go to this lake because they were going to, or stream, whatever. They were going to get in the stream together.
I think he was going to take her to that healing waters thing. I think that was his goal. But again, things just don't work out for her.
the water was gone. And he was devastated by this. I don't remember how she fixed it. Well, she had him sit down. Yeah,
because he was wanting to stand in the water. She just had him sit down, and then it was kind of comical because he clearly had this speech ready and memorized. Yeah, but she'd start recording, and then a bird would just keep chirping away. And then once they finally took care of the bird situation, then the sun lighting wasn't right, and the shadows were on his. It was a little funny just because. Yeah. As a photographer for as long as I've done it, I definitely understand where you think you've got the perfect shot, and then a plastic bag blows by in the background, or it's like things out of your control really can disrupt things.
And they're running around in the woods. She's going after him again, not fazed by anything. And then they go back home. Yeah. And he was upset. Mm-hmm. And she finds him in the hot tub, doesn't she?
Yes.
And this is it just, again, Creep 1, that is it's a positive, but it's also a negative because it's they just go so fast. Yeah. And everything just happens. And so he's in the hot tub. She's kind of rubbing him down. Right, because
he's very depressed.
Yeah. And she's doing more than I would. She's a trooper. And he does that. Does she get in the hot tub with him?
Yeah, she climbs in behind him and starts rubbing his shoulders. And it doesn't get sensual.
No.
But she clearly sees that he's broken.
Yes.
And because, again, he's wanting this, like, day-long documentary, and just what he has planned, like, it just isn't working out. And so she sees he's really, like, in the pits. He's really in the pits. And so, she, like, massages, and he just, like, really starts to melt in her hands. And so it's, it kind of saves the moment for him.
Uh-huh. And then he gives her that locket.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I didn't have enough time to get a new one made, but here's this one for you.
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh, thanks.
Yeah.
And she puts it on, like, she didn't find anything weird by that, which, whatever.
Right.
But then it gets to where he does finally kind of scare her.
Yeah. Yeah.
This, like, I don't know. Honestly, I feel like there should have been, like, a trigger warning at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, you're not going to find those in horror films.
For this part, because I was like, I was not expecting this. Like,
when he was up on the railing?
Yeah, like, he'd talked about, like, suicide and stuff, but I was not expecting this. And
yeah, this method of death, even as a kid, has always bothered me. Just the visual of it.
Yeah.
I can handle people getting, like, hatchets to the face, and, like, things that obviously can happen, but seem so extreme. And they're instant.
Yeah.
Like this visual, it's always bothered me, even as a kid, just because it's so lengthy. Like, it's not immediate. But yeah, so she still doubts that he's a serial killer, like, because he's she's got no proof.
Yeah,
he did show her the video of him killing Aaron.
Yes.
And so, he tells her, he's reached a moment where he's accepted that he's done.
Yeah.
And told her that we're going to end this documentary. You're going to kill me. And of course, she's no. I'm not going to kill you. And so then I won't say stumbles across it, but she comes into, like, the main room.
Yeah.
And there's a second floor, and he's outside of the railing on the lofted second floor with a noose around his neck. And he basically says, well, I'm going to take my own life now. And of course she doesn't really believe him. Yeah. And he does. He just lets go, and there he is, just hanging. We see it all, and you said a trigger warning. You're not gonna get one in a horror film. You're just not, because they want that horrific imagery to bother you. That's the whole premise of it.
And it did. Like, I said, like, I was not expecting that.
Yeah. Right.
But she's trying to save him.
Yeah.
And when she gets him saved, she is furious.
Oh, yeah.
At him.
Yeah. Like, I'm done. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Like, this is not what I agreed to. You telling me I'm going to kill you, I'm in control of that, but you doing this,
in front of me. And, like, I think he had said, like, if you want to save me, you can, or something like that. Like, it's your job to say something. It was just like, whew, poor Sarah.
But this is really where, for me, I felt like the movie flipped over to, this is Joseph all along. This is part of his long con of what he's been doing to everybody. The only difference is he started with her by admitting he's a serial killer.
Yeah.
And making it look like he's ineffective.
Yes.
When in reality, I think he's been in control. Because they sit down, and again, she's furious, and he reveals to her, I was never in danger.
Yeah. And he showed her.
Yeah. Yes, but that was all for show. Like, I was harnessed up. I was not in danger. And then he just starts to elaborate into, more intimate details about himself. He's never really been in a relationship. He's never kissed a girl. And again, you and I have seen the first one,
yes.
and we know how deceitful he is. To where I said, and I watched this, and I'm like, I don't believe a word out of your mouth.
No.
I just don't. And so he, I won't say tricks a kiss out of her, because it's not like they got real intimate.
Yeah, but she did feel bad for him. Like,
yeah.
oh, you've never kissed someone, okay?
She's
I'll
let her
kiss
guard.
You.
Yeah, let her guard down. He plays it up. That was really cool. Like, as a person who, and you look at him and you're like, we're even duped a little, because you're a handsome guy,
mm-hmm.
but you are a serial killer.
Yes.
Like, we do know that about you. So I don't know if you're serious about never kissing someone or not. I don't know. So Aaron then takes her outside. They go outside. And the movie is wrapping up here.
Yeah.
They go outside. And so he looks deadpan in the camera and says, we're going to end this. We're going to commit suicide together. Mm-hmm. News that she was not aware of.
Yeah, she's like, what?
And so he has the knife that she had hidden in her boot.
And she, went down to reach for it, kind of. And he's like, nope, I've got it right here.
Yep. And opens it up and starts stabbing himself in the stomach.
Yeah.
And, of course, then he stabs her.
Yeah. And he had this hole dug.
Yeah. He was ready. Like, again,
yes.
This is where the full
yes.
reveal is she was always going to be the next
mm-hmm.
victim.
And he kind of, he's talking into, because she has now fallen into the hole. They've had this little chase down. We think she's dead.
Right.
Then he's talking into the camera, and I don't really remember exactly what he had said.
It really wasn't much of anything. It was he got caught monologuing.
Yes.
Which it's made fun of more now, but it used to be in old, especially in James Bond movies, when James Bond is captured by whoever the movie's bad guy is, and James Bond is in a position where he's facing certain death.
Mm-hmm.
The bad guy just starts revealing his entire plan.
Okay.
And in this one-sided monologue of just, I'm telling you how I did it and how all of this happened.
Uh-huh.
And of course, in the long wind-up time it takes him to tell all of this, James Bond gets free, and so it's action movies sometimes refer to as monologuing. Like, even in The Incredibles, the Pixar cartoon, the villain's like, you got me monologuing. So that's really what he's doing here.
Okay.
Is it's just a filmmaking technique to keep him on camera long enough so that we could see something else develop. And that's what happens.
What's developing is she's climbing out of this open grave, and
we find she could tiptoe just as quietly as he could at the end of the first movie.
And she whacks him in the head with the back of the head with a shovel.
Yep.
And she had then taken off running.
Yeah. Left the camera.
And what you think might be the end of it, but it flashes to another scene, and she is walking in public, and she's still got this this locket on.
Yeah.
Which was just like, girl. No,
she's clearly
everything that you just went through. Why?
Yeah.
And she hears something, and it is like this whistling noise that she had heard before.
Because it cuts from her walking to now she's on the subway.
Yeah,
and still being recorded.
Yes,
but from half a car length up or something,
And she hears this, the whistling noise that she'd heard from Joseph slash Aaron.
It's the song. It's the Peach Fuzz song.
Peach Fuzz.
That from the first movie that he was whistling this time,
and she noticed someone's filming her, and the camera just cuts.
Yeah, she recognizes the whistle, and like you said, the scariest part of this movie for me was the look on her face when she realized who was watching her at the end.
Because she was unfazed by everything the rest of the movie. Yeah, so like the fact that she's scared
she realized
now,
that he's not dead.
Yeah.
And he has my camera, and it's like the events of the movie, the attempted murder, the admission of, it's like none of that stuck because he has the camera. He just very easily could have just recorded over it or deleted it or burnt the tape. It's like, so everything you went through doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because he's still out there. Don't know how, because even my wife said, she goes, there's no way he survived that. She's like, where he was stabbing himself, he would have caught an intestine, like,
yes,
but it's movies, whatever,
The nurse side, she's like,
exactly, she's like,
happening?
And that's fair. I'll give her that. But it's still, so that's Creep 2.
Yes,
definitely not as horrific and creepy as the first one.
No,
but I don't think that was ever the intention of this one either. Mm-hmm. When you watch it, this wasn't a failed horror movie. This was a continuation of a story that, I mean, sure had some moments. They were numbed a little bit because we already knew Aaron and what he was up to. So when he would jump, I even wondered while I was watching the couple times early on in the cabin where he like jumped out from behind a wall and screamed into the camera. I just thought, I'm like, I doubt that got Courtney this time.
Yeah, no.
First, I know the first one it did. Yeah, but I'm like, I doubt it did this time because you already know that about him.
Yeah,
that's what he does. And so I'm like,
as she was chasing him through the woods, I'm like, well, more than likely he's gonna jump out.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, what do you want to grade this thing?
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one a B. Okay. Just because like it's still creepy. I mean, Aaron. Joseph, he's still a major creep, but it just didn't scare me.
Right.
Like the first one did. It didn't like stay with me.
Agreed. I think a B is fair. I'll give it a B as well. I do think this is a better story than the first one. Mm-hmm. The first one was definitely more creepy and we were getting to know, but it's like, I think to watch Creep and Creep 2 back to back, like even in one, because really you're looking at less than 3 hours to watch both these movies. I think watching them, back to back like that, I think could be a pretty cool experience just to see the development, knowing that it kind of picked up where it left off. But I think B is fair. I think it opens up a little bit more about Aaron, but at the same time, I almost feel like in this one, we are just as much the next victim as Sarah, because all of these things he's telling her, parts of it we know are true. But then there's the reveal of she's been the next victim all along. Yeah. He had no intention of letting her go. And so it's almost like, did we let our guards down a little bit for the movie, only to find out that we were also kind of conned? I don't know. He did a good job of faking it, I guess.
Yeah, he is a master manipulator.
Yes,
for sure.
There is in 2017. What was the guy's name? Patrick Bryce, who wrote and directed both movies. It is confirmed that a third movie, Creep 3, was in development, with he directing and Mark Duplass returning. I don't know any update on that because again, that was 6 years ago. that was. Yeah. So I don't know if that was still something that's coming.
2023 is what 5 days ago.
Yeah.
Oh wait, January 11th.
So there is still talk of Creep 3. So we'll just leave it at that. It said, I'm looking here that Mark Duplass says that they're struggling with the development, but it's still in the works. And that was just a couple of years ago, like 2020. It said they're struggling. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll just have to wait and see. What kind of educational message would you take from this? To be honest, mine isn't a whole lot different than the last movie.
Mine's
like it's
not
really,
either.
yeah, it's
like, again, no one knew where this girl was going. Why?
Yeah, yeah. You know, for me, it's the same of the internet's a scary place, folks.
Yeah.
And no matter how much you believe in the good intentions of others, you can't control other people's intentions. So if it smells funny, stay away.
Yep.
Like, you know, it's not worth the investigation just to see, I wonder where this is headed, because obviously this one didn't head in a good place.
No.
Okay. What do you want to watch next week?
Okay, so we had talked about
A couple of them, yeah.
yeah, a couple of them. There's Malignant.
Uh-huh.
There is, we talked about
Skinamarink.
Skinamarink.
Which is in theaters right now. Very limited release.
Okay.
And so that movie just came out on Friday in theaters. And so that's a possibility.
Both of those look good.
Having seen Malignant, I will tell you, and okay, having seen Malignant and read about Skinamarink, okay?
Okay.
Malignant, from what I do know, because I've seen it, Malignant is a complete film. Like, there's an easy to follow plot. Like, it's a legit film, you know, in terms of, you know, plot structure and characters and whatever. Everything I've read about Skinamarink is it's more an experience.
Okay.
And that it's very art housey in terms of it's not going to be for everyone. It's either going to work for you or not work for you.
Okay.
And so everything I read about, you know, like I said, reading about Skinamarink, it's, you know, a lot of, I've never seen anything like this before. and these are from like reputable reviewers that it's effective if you really like open yourself up to it.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
If you're watching it the whole time you're like, I don't understand what's going on. You're going to lose yourself because it's not going to work for you. This reviewer, you know, I was reading reviews on Letterboxd where someone's like, I left the theater in tears because of how effective it was, but the people behind me were laughing.
Okay.
You know, because it just didn't work on them. I watched the trailer. Like, this will be a movie that I likely, if we cover it at some point, I will watch it alone. This will be a movie that you're going to want to watch alone in the dark.
Oh, okay.
One of those.
I mean, I do watch all these alone.
Right.
My significant other isn't a team player like yours.
So I watched the trailer with my wife last night, and the trailer itself was eerie.
Yes.
And creepy. Just like, for me, that stuff works for me. The long static shots of partially lit. It's like your imagination starts to take off.
Yeah.
But my wife watched it and was like, in this house, like, what? Yeah. You know, like she needs a narrative structure.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, I know, that's it is what it is. You know, I'm not gonna downplay the importance of that to people. But both are, like, Malignant, like I told you when you mentioned that, I'm like, I've been wanting to see that again. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it. Because that movie's a lot of fun. Okay. That's going to fill the horror movie of, you're not going to be scared by that one, but it's a really fun ride. Like, okay. It's very enjoyable and really far-fetched at times, but it's just it's a really, like, I finished watching that movie. Well, my wife and I finished watching it. I was like, that was a lot of fun. Like, that movie, it was gory and violent and just fun. It feels that horror, that piece of horror genre. Whereas Skinamarink, I think, is going to be more. That would be the one. I have no idea. We could reconvene next week, and if that's the one we choose, we could reconvene next week, and we both could end up hating it. I have no idea. You know
let's
what I mean?
do that one then.
You want to do that one?
Let's do Skinamarink, because that sounds like, I don't know.
It's intriguing. It's
yes,
enough to be like,
is.
You know, there was even part that I was even thinking, like, if we watched, a movie like that would be one that, and it would be like, at some point I feel like there's a possibility, I don't know, almost like we could do like a live, like do this as we're watching movie kind of thing. But I don't know if this is I don't think this would be the one to do it. Because I really, like, for me, it's like, I really like, it's probably the only film I could ever think of where I want to watch it with my wife, but it's I don't. Because I don't want, because there's been numerous movies where I've put on, because she's like, I don't care what we watch, and I just feel like watching something, so I'll put something on, and I'm pretty sure she's not gonna like it, but I know she's a good trooper, and she admitted she doesn't care, so I'll put it on, and we'll watch it, and 10 minutes later, she's on her phone. Yeah. And I usually turn it off. Well, you didn't have to turn it off. I'm like, I know, but you're not into this at all. Like, this, it's not like these people are acting it out live for me. Like, I could stop the movie and finish it later. It's not a big deal. But when we're going to sit down and watch a movie and you aren't into it, and so part of it's like, I really don't think she's going to be into it. Because she needs that plot structure. I was reading that, like, you really don't even see the characters very often. That a lot of times they're like off screen. And one of the reviews I read was like, you almost feel like you're shoulder to shoulder with the characters because of what's going on. But man, I'm really into that. I'm really into that, like, experimental. I guess a lot of it comes from, and I know I'm just gabbing here. Newsflash: I've seen a ton of horror films. A ton of them. It is very, very rare anymore that anything new gets me. Yeah. And I can remember in my adult life two movies that got me. Back when the Blair Witch Project came out in like 99, that movie dominated. It was massive. I remember I was in Chicago when it came out, and there was one movie theater. It was such a low-budget film. There's one movie theater in Chicago that played it. I mean, you heard that right. One movie theater in Chicago that showed this movie. Wow. And a friend and I were going to go see it. So we drove to that movie theater, and there was like a 7, a 9, and an 11 show. And this was like 6 o'clock. Because we knew there'd be a line. And we pull up to the theater, and the line is around the block. And so we just holler out the window, hey, is this for this, are you guys in line for the 7 o'clock show? Because if they were, like, we'll just come back for the 9 o'clock show. This line at 6 o'clock, this was the line for the 11 o'clock show. Oh my gosh. No. Yeah. So I didn't see it then, obviously. It was several months later. Actually, there was a girl I was seeing at the time. She had already seen it. So she and I went to see it. And I was so ready to be scared that there were parts early in the movie I wasn't paying much attention to. Mm-hmm. Which came back later. And so the end of it, like, the movie didn't bother me when I watched it because I wasn't, like, in it. Yeah. But when we were headed out, we were driving like through the woods to wherever we were going. And she was, and I remember telling her, like, I was disappointed. Well, then she started explaining the end and what I missed. And I remember the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. I mean, it terrified me.
Yeah.
I still remember Last Kiss from Pearl Jam was on the radio. Like I remember that moment. It shook me. So that's one. And my second one was there was a Japanese movie called Ju-on. They've remade it in America as The Grudge. But the original Japanese movie was supposed to be the most terrifying experience ever. And you couldn't even buy it. I bought a bootleg copy on eBay. And I got it, and I popped it in, turned the lights off, watched it by myself. 10 minutes later, turned that movie off. It was just, I couldn't do it. I can't do it right now. Like,
yeah.
I had hyped myself up so much for this that when the movie delivered, I was like, I can't do it. I had a friend over a couple of years later who is not a horror film fan, and I talked her into letting the movie be on. Mm-hmm. And she sat, I'm not kidding, she sat behind a magazine for the entire runtime of this movie. Didn't watch a single frame of it, hiding behind a magazine, and still had nightmares just from the sounds from the movie.
Yeah, so when I was in oh my gosh, probably 6th grade, we had a slumber party at Maggie's house, and we watched The Grudge.
The American one?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, 6th grade,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it was not as scary as the Japanese one, but we're there's 10 girls laying together in the living room.
Right.
And all you hear is that. And it's
yeah, and I believe the director of the American version is the director of the Japanese version.
Okay.
I know the little boy and the mom are the same.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm with you that it's not as effective. It's still a good movie. Yeah, I do. Yeah, because it's got a 5.9 out of 10. I do believe, yes, he directed the original, which has a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb. The original was, oh man, it nailed me. And so I'm really, really hoping Skinamarink is a similar experience.
Yeah.
Because again, the first one was 1999. The second one was early 2000s, 2004. It's been a long while since I've watched The Strangers. Bothered me when my wife and I saw it in theaters. That one bothered me, but not to the level of Blair Witch.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping Skinamarink is the one where, and I'm not gonna get my hopes up. I'm not gonna get so heightened that it's only gonna be disappointment. But I'm really hoping that I can watch this movie and be like, oh, that was that got me. That was good. The trailer alone, just a couple minutes of the trailer, it was enough that I was like, this is going to be good. This is going to be eerie. So I'm on board with that. And then we'll watch Malignant next week because I really want to watch that again too. That movie's a lot of fun. So yeah, we will be back next week. If you haven't noticed, we'll be back next week with Skinamarink. Movie in theaters. We're gonna have to find a theater to go see it in. So we'll have to figure that out. But yeah, so we will be back next week with Skinamarink, and hopefully it's scarier than Creep 2. Which,
yes.
Again, I don't think the goal of Creep 2 was to scare us.
Yeah, it was just to continue the creepiness.
Which is fair, because that's not fair to hold it to a standard it wasn't trying to deliver on. So, but I guess that's it for this week. So for Deducation, I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
And we'll see you guys next week when we discuss the new movie out right now, Skinamarink.
Bye.